Censoring the facts turns our children into idiots. They claim it's for our safety. I'll tell you what it really is. Removing information that empowers all the citizens. The truth doesn't damage points of view that are legitimate. They're trying to change amen to amen and women. How'd we let them make praying a microaggression?
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Dion's Daily Dose. So, sorry for the late, well, I guess early notice. I had to go live an hour early today because we have an ice storm coming through. And so my son, who's at work, I have to pick him up early. And unfortunately, that's the notice that I got. So I was like, oh man, I already made the graphic and everything. I'll be all right. So I want to share with you guys what's going on with the Supreme Court. Now, I personally am very, very interested to see the decisions, or excuse me, the opinions on this, right? So we know that they ruled and it was 5-4, and we did not get the ruling that many of us expected. Let's cover this. This is, in my opinion, the best place that I've found to kind of keep up what's going on with SCOTUS. It's called scotusblog.com. Real quick, the Supreme Court on Thursday granted a request from the Biden administration to allow federal Border Patrol agents to cut or move razor wire installed by Texas along a portion of the U.S.-Mexico border. 3 migrants, a woman and 2 children, drowned on January 12th near the disputed area, the Biden administration told the justices in a filing last week, while the Mexican government had to rescue 2 more who were suffering from hypothermia. Texas acknowledged that the deaths were tragic, but it pushed back against what it described as the Biden administration's efforts to blame Texas for the deaths. In a brief, unsigned order, the justices lifted an order by a federal appeals court that had barred Border Patrol agents from interfering with the wire except in medical emergencies. 4 justices, Clarence Thomas, Samuel Alito, Neil Gorsuch, and Brett Kavanaugh, indicated that they would have denied the Biden administration's request and allowed the lower court's order to remain in place. In response to an increase in the number of migrants, many of whom are seeking asylum, crossing the border into the United States, Texas installed rolls of razor wire fencing along some stretches of the Rio Grande River, which forms the U.S. border with Mexico in the southern part of the state last year. In October, the state went to federal court where it argued that Border Patrol agents violated state laws when they cut or moved the fencing. On December 19th, a federal appeals court in New Orleans issued an order that, except in cases of medical emergencies, temporarily barred Border Patrol agents from cutting or moving the wire in the area around the city of Eagle Pass. That order then prompted the Biden administration to come to the Supreme Court on January 2nd, asking the justices to intervene. U.S. Solicitor General Elizabeth Prelogar told the court that the order by the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit bars agents doing their jobs, specifically from cutting or moving the wire to obtain access to the U.S.-Mexico border and, quote, reaching migrants who have already entered U.S. territory. The exception that the appeals created for medical emergencies is not enough, Prelogar insisted, because of the time that it takes to cut through the wires and the, quote, very real, quote, risk of death along this stretch of the river, end quote. Texas told the justices that there was no need for them to get involved in the dispute because the Court of Appeals has fast-tracked the case and is scheduled to hear oral arguments on February 7th. But in any event, Texas dismissed the underlying premise of the Biden administration's argument that Border Patrol agents are carrying out their responsibilities under federal law when they move or cut the wire as, quote, false. To the contrary, Texas contended, as the federal district court in this case found, Border Patrol agents are not actually apprehending or processing migrants who cross through holes in the wire that the agents create. And more broadly, Texas concluded, the public interest favors not only respecting the state's property rights, but also supporting efforts to combat the influx of deadly fentanyl, human trafficking, and minimize the risks to people, both U.S. citizens and migrants, of drowning while making perilous journeys to and through illegal ports of entry. In a filing on January 12th, Prelogar indicated that Texas had recently added new razor wire barriers and fencing along the border and blocked access by Border Patrol agents to sites used to launch patrol boats on the river and for mobile surveillance. As a result, Prelogar wrote, agents are effectively barred from accessing or getting near the border along this 2.5-mile stretch of the river, and therefore effectively prevented from monitoring the border to determine whether a migrant requires the emergency aid that the Court of Appeals expressly accepted from the injunction. The Supreme Court, Prelogar argued, should lift the Fifth Circuit's order to restore Border Patrol's access to the border it is charged with patrolling and the migrants it is responsible for apprehending, inspecting, and processing. The court granted Prelogar's request with its order on Monday afternoon. The Biden administration needed 5 votes to freeze the Fifth Circuit's order, which means Chief Justice John Roberts, that POS, and Justice Amy Coney Barrett would have joined the court's 3 liberal justices in voting to grant relief. All right. I'm going to break this down even simpler. I actually have a couple of really interesting posts that I want to share with you guys on X, formerly known as Twitter, that I think really sum this up quite well. Let's see here. Let me bring it up. First of all, it actually goes very, very interesting because this guy, excellent. All right, I found it. Let me show you what he has to say. And I think this is very, very important. Brian Cates, he says, there are plenty of people who are going to be urging you to react emotionally to this news that the Supreme Court just ruled in favor of the Biden executive branch having jurisdiction over the nation's borders. I'm not one of those people. Instead, I'm going to point directly to the fact that the Biden DOJ filed to ask the SCOTUS directly, hey, SCOTUS, according to every legal precedent you've established in your case law, who has jurisdiction over this here border in Texas, us or the state of Texas? If you know how this game is played, you already knew the answer SCOTUS was going to give. The executive branch agencies have control of the border. That's a pretty freaking strong precedent that's been set down in more than a handful of SCOTUS cases over the years. Now, here's where I'm going to ask you to think. Has there ever been a big filing at SCOTUS in recent memory where the people who were filing demand/ask that SCOTUS affirm its previously established precedent in the case law and were shocked and surprised when instead of affirming its own past ruling, the SCOTUS overturns itself and vacates its own precedents? Think hard and do some research before you answer that question. We're just going to, I know the answer. I'm sure you know the answer. Now whoops. I don't want to go to Grok right now. Now I'm going to ask a different question. How did the big honkin' massive Roe v. Wade case succeed last year? Who filed that case? And why did SCOTUS agree to reverse itself and overturn all of its previous precedents established on the basis of Roe v. Wade? It happened because someone wrote a brief challenging the SCOTUS to directly assess the argumentation of RVW in light of new evidence and legal findings. It worked because it was a party hostile to the RV Wade precedent that filed the case. This wasn't somebody cheering the abortion precedents established by the federal courts. This was an opponent. Now, let me tell you what needs to happen next. Someone, preferably a state AG like, I don't know, I'm just spitballing here, Texas AG Ken Paxton, needs to file a case at SCOTUS that goes directly at all the established case law that gives the feds inviolate jurisdiction over the Republic of Texas border. Somebody needs to make that filing that hands the court the opportunity to directly vacate all of its previously established case law that the feds have inviolate control of the Texas border. This case just ruled on today was the Biden admin asking the SCOTUS to reaffirm its past rulings on this issue. I believe a well-argued filing from a state AG that is currently under direct threat from this invasion being enabled and facilitated by the Biden executive branch agencies that specifically requests the SCOTUS to rule only on the federal inviolate control of the Texas border can place the issue before both the court and the public in a way that will clarify for the entire country this issue. If the feds are, for whatever reason, facilitating the destruction of their own country by allowing border states to be completely overwhelmed by millions of illegal migrants, is there any legal recourse or remedy to stop this? Because if the federal courts can't or won't stop this invasion, then whoever wins control of the executive branch in this upcoming 2024 election becomes of paramount importance to the very survival of this constitutional republic. It would become vitally necessary to the United States itself that Joe Biden be replaced by Donald Trump. And I'm going to go one step further on this and say, let me ask you this, right? This ruling, now, first of all it does is talk about this border wire, right? They have to have access to this border wire so that they can cut it and have access to save the illegals that are pouring into us, right? Okay. But also, does it actually reaffirm the federal government's right to the border? If it does, then this opens up another question for me, which is, okay, Biden administration is currently in charge. Let's say Trump wins 2020. He takes office, right? Now, if the Supreme Court had ruled that the state itself was in charge of the border, for example, right, then Texas could do all the protecting the border they want. California could just open the door. Think about that. That's all I'm saying. Think about it. And Drunken Wino said they just need to make a 250-mile thick razor wire border. You know, that's another interesting thought. People have commented, okay, well, if the border with another country is under responsibility of the federal government, then why don't we just come in a little bit and make a border to Texas? Interesting. I'm going to shift gears here a little bit. And in early January, Angie Nelson-Deuitch won the mayor's race, and she is now Mayor Angie Nelson-Deuitch, right? Replacing Mayor Perry. Now, I'm going to talk just a little bit. There were those people who argued on social media that Mayor Dwayne Perry knew how to use social media to get elected, but didn't really use it once he was in office to stay in contact with the citizens. So we have a slight problem here. And that is the last post by the Michigan City Facebook page, My Michigan City, Indiana, which is under the control of the mayor's office. The last one that allowed comments was January 12th. A Facebook Live talking about oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Was it? Oh, hold on. Okay, so a post on January 18th, as you can see, My Michigan City, Indiana limited who can comment on this post. It won't tell me how they limited it or what they did. The same thing with, it's not working now because this is mine. But I'm going to bring that up. Give me just a second. Because it's important. The mayor did a live where she talked about the ice storm the big snowfall and plowing and all of that. And unfortunately, limited comments on completely turned comments off on that. So, that's why. Okay, I got it figured out now. All right, I'm going to bring this up again real quick. I was on the wrong video. I got it. And then there we go. As soon as I get this done and show you, okay, let me bring this up here. Pause this, close that. There. As you can see, there is no option to comment. None whatsoever. This is a problem. It's one of the big issues out there right now, censorship. I did leave a comment it's this one. Let's see. That's all right. I'll find it. I did leave a comment asking why comments were turned off, if this was a plan moving forward, or was it simply a mistake? Because it's possible. Look, people are human. They make mistakes, ladies and gentlemen. I make mistakes all the time. If it's not a temporary thing, if this is a moving forward, what they intend to do thing, then we're all going to have to get a lot more vocal. This is a problem. I am not in favor of censorship whatsoever. You guys know, for those of you who have watched me and for any length of time, you know, I'm much more of a free speech absolutist than Elon Musk claims to be. I believe that we should not restrict what people say, because the more they say, the more you learn about them, and you can do whatever you choose to do with that knowledge. Whether it's follow them, whether it's distance yourself from them, the more you allow people to say, the more they tell you who they are. Moving on to John Rust. Now, Mr. Rust is going to be here with us tomorrow for a show. We get to meet him, talk to him, learn who he is, where he comes from, egg farmer. Should be interesting. I'm looking forward to it. One of the things that I did want to do, that I wanted to make sure I did, was to cover the lawsuit and the repercussions of it before we had Mr. Rust on, because I don't want to spend all the time talking about the lawsuit. I want to talk about him. We need to get to know him. So here's what happened, right? He filed to run as U.S. Senator as a Republican. He was told no. The party chair, let me bring it up. I forget the name. I guess it doesn't really matter. But the Jackson County Republican Party chair told the election commission that she wasn't handing out Okay, there we go. I think, I think I got it. Sure. There we go. Okay. All right. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. It's taken care of now. Somehow, I guess there was a setting or something, but it's fixed. This is a new mic, so I do apologize. I'm still learning the ins and outs of it. Hopefully, this won't be an issue tomorrow night. I'm going to do a few more tests to make sure I understand what happened just now. Anyway, so with this case, in order to run as a Republican or a Democrat, you have to have voted twice in the two previous primaries, right? He did not have that voting record. I believe he only voted once, but it doesn't matter. He did not have two. He sued, which I'm going to show you here. The plaintiff, the Secretary of State, he sued the Indiana Election Commission, and he sued the Jackson County Republican Party chair. The judge found the law unconstitutional and granted Mr. Rust an injunction. Now, you guys are more than welcome to look this up and read it. But what's really interesting is right here. Rust sued to gain access to the Republican ballot, saying the measure barred the vast majority of Hoosiers from running under their preferred party, an argument that seemed to sway the court. This is a victory for the 80% who are banned from running for political office. And I know they don't like me saying that, but it's the absolute truth, Rust told the Indiana Capitol Chronicle, citing a Pew Research Center analysis of Indiana's party affiliation. Dietrich also cited that research in his filing. Quote, When the immense power of the state is turned toward and upon its citizens in such a way that it imperils a sacred and cherished right of those same citizens, the state's actions must be for an articulated, compelling, and pressing reason, and it must be exercised in the most transparent and least restrictive and least intrusive ways possible, he said. The 2021 law fails in this regard. It unduly burdens Hoosiers' long-recognized right to freely associate with the political party of one's choosing and to cast one's vote effectively, Deuitch continued. Ruling. Law seems to benefit party, not the state. Rust's two most recent primary votes were Republican in 2016 and Democrat in 2012, meaning he can't appear on the Republican ballot for the 2024 May primary election. The law allows an exception should the county's party chair grant it. Jackson County Republican Party chair elected not to do so in this case because of the two primary rule, according to the filing. Deuitch noted that it appeared the Republican Party, which made the unprecedented move to endorse Rust's opponent, U.S. Rep. Jim Banks, benefited from this law rather than the state and Hoosiers. I want to find this right here. Blah, 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 blah. He noted the U.S. Supreme Court had struck down similar restrictions to party membership that lasted 23 months, while this law restricts voting Hoosiers for 48 months or more. Additionally, two candidates openly calling themselves Republicans qualified for the Democratic ballot in Owen County in 2022, an outcome which Deuitch said is compelling proof that the statute does not work to serve the alleged state goal. Deuitch noted the Indiana Constitution, this is the important part, requires a candidate to live in Indiana for 2 years preceding the election to be eligible. The law in question essentially doubles that. Further, according to the state constitution, a state representative may be 21 years old. But with the voting age set at 18, most candidates would not have voted in two primaries until reaching the age of 22, the ruling said. Now, that, in my opinion, is the critically important part and probably what greatly swayed the judges here. It says, look, they're not going to be old enough to follow the Constitution if we allow this law. Now, here's the thing. He still has to get 500 signatures from each of the state's 9 congressional districts, but he can't be denied from participating due to his voting history. His primary opponent, Banks, continued to denigrate his, quote, a Democrat opponent and referenced a recent court battle involving the Rust family, including John Rust. And we'll talk about that, ladies and gentlemen. Basically, he was sued, and a jury found that Roseacre had purposefully manipulated its supply with competitors to increase the price of eggs back early 2000s. The egg farms, were fined millions. But what does this mean for local elections? And I reached out to our clerk of court, Heather Stevens, and I talked to her about it. I said, hey, with this filing, right, with the win, what does that mean? And apparently it's very, very confusing, unfortunately, for clerks, because currently they just accept any filing. If you can file as a Republican, regardless of your primary voting record, you can file as a Democrat, regardless of your primary voting record. Now, on the one hand, if somebody wants to shake up the system, this is the year, ladies and gentlemen. This is the year. Get out there, file for office. What's going to happen down the road? I don't know. I reached out to a couple of contacts downstate, and I'm waiting for them to get back to me. My guess is the legislature is going to do something. They're going to change some laws around. It has been appealed. This decision has been appealed. So we'll kind of have to wait and see what happens there. But in the meantime, the clerks of court have been instructed by the Indiana Election Commission to accept all filings. So you want to run for something, get down there and file. The deadline isn't until, I believe, into February. You'll have to check. I got it somewhere. I'm not going to look it up right now. That's the way to do it. I mean, unfortunately, Whether this guy's a Republican, whether he's a Democrat, you guys are going to have to make up your mind on that. Indiana voters, you guys have to decide. And I urge everyone all the time, do your research on these candidates. Look them up. Listen to them speak. If you have an opportunity, meet them in person. Seeing someone on a podcast is, thank you. Once again, my better half has the information. The deadline to file to run for office in the primary is noon on February 9th. February 9th. As always, thank you. So if you want to run for office, get out there. You can run as a Republican. You can run as a Democrat. You can run as an independent. You can run as some third party, whether that's Libertarian, Green Party, Moo Party. I don't know. There's tons of them. But right now is the time because, and this is really important. Pay attention to delegate and precinct person candidates as well. I think we're going to see a lot of people running for those positions this year, particularly precinct, because people are really starting to understand that that's the way that you affect change in your county parties. You need to be a precinct committeeman, woman. You need to vote for a chairman that you believe in, and then that chairman actually votes for the state party leader, and then the state votes for the national. So if you want to get rid of Liz Cheney, the only way to do that, I'm sorry, it's not Liz Cheney, it's Ronna McDaniel. But aren't they virtually indistinguishable almost? I know. If you want to get rid of Ronna McDaniel, is there an S? I don't know. If you want to get rid of her, the only way to do so, precinct. Wife is running for precinct committee woman and delegate. I have not decided. I may or may not. If I do, I have to run against her. And then if she beats me, she's going to just talk smack all the time. And I'm not sure I want to deal with that. Might be easier just to not do it. What do you guys think? Let me know. I don't know. I'm not that invested in it personally because of the things that I have going on, but only if I will say this, if she was not running, I would definitely be running because someone from this household absolutely needs to be in there. I look forward to finding out what happens with both the Supreme Court case and this Russ lawsuit. She did beat me last time, by the way. That's why that's why I don't think I'm going to do it again. I can't bear losing twice in a row. It was close. But yeah. Now, to be fair, she was also on the ballot for a more local position, but it is what it is. I hope that everyone who is even remotely considering running for office really looks into this and goes out, learns the process. I'm planning on doing a little series here on the show talking about running for local, state, etc. offices and what you need to know. I covered precinct person and delegate. Look through my videos, you'll find it. We're gonna talk about others and what you need to know. We're also going to be having lots of candidates coming on the show. Just so everyone's aware, tomorrow we have John Rust. Friday we have Andrew Horning, who's also running for United States Senator as a Libertarian. My booking team has reached out to Jim Banks, who is been endorsed by the Republican Party for United States Senator, and he hasn't answered. His supporters have been very active in the comments section talking about how I shouldn't even bother interviewing Russ, that it would be a waste of time. But again, Banks won't answer. So I truly hope that he does take the opportunity to come on. We've also sent invitations to everyone on the Democratic side running. I have yet to hear from any of them either. Hopefully they take the time. What I'm really hoping is I hope that anyone who isn't sure about whether you'd like to appear on the show, tune in tomorrow, watch or look back at some of the other interviews that I've done in the past, even in those that aren't necessarily the same political party as me. I interviewed Donald Rainwater, who was running for governor. I've interviewed several libertarians. We always get along quite famously. It's not going to be any different if you're of a different political persuasion. So that's where we're at. I urge everyone, anyone and everyone, to get involved. If that doesn't mean running for office for you, which, hey, I get it, man. It's an investment, not just time, but money, energy. Your family has to be on board. It's a lot. If you aren't quite there as far as running for office yourself, find someone that you believe in. Find someone get your friends together. Talk about, look, one of us has to go for this, and all support them. It's critically important. There are very, very few ways that we're going to wrest control of this country away from the people who currently control it. And you can call them whoever you want: the resistance, the deep state, the establishment. You call them whoever you like. It all means the same thing. People in charge that do not have the people at heart. They don't have your and my best results in mind. They care about themselves, not you. If the best way to get our country back from them, because look, regardless of who you want to vote for president is off in Washington, D.C. Yeah, federal controls a lot, but you know what else controls a lot? The various political parties. A lot, right? Pay attention to what's happening with Ronna McDaniel and Vivek Ramaswamy. Remember the big blow up during the debate? Why is this person still in charge? And for that to change, we have to take control at the precinct level, at the county level, at the state level. And that's the way to do so. Run, put your name on the ballot. Like I said, I'm going to be covering more in-depth presentations and recommendations if you want to run for office, and I hope that you'll tune in for them. In the meantime, there's so much going on that it's a lot to keep up on. I have a lot of work to do between tonight and tomorrow to make sure that everything works and I don't have this microphone problem again. That's where we're at, though, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, thank you for joining me. I appreciate your time. I really do. I gotta go pick up my son from work. His job closed early, so I wasn't able to go live when I wanted to. I had to kind of kick it up, which wouldn't be a big deal, except the fact that the time on the graphic is different really, really bugs me. There's a little bit of OCD there, but good night, ladies and gentlemen. I'll talk to you again soon. Hopefully I see you tomorrow during the interview. With that, God bless you, God bless Indiana, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you.